alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef, and this is your week in horror, bringing you all of the latest horror headlines and news of this past week. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, the first piece of news that we have here, I actually did not know about this one at all. This one is more of a fan film horror headline, I guess. But I did not realize that there was a Silent Hill fan film being made. It is called Silent Hill Road of Guilt. And we just got a second trailer for that. I didn't even realize it was any trailers. So the movie itself is going to be releasing on September 24th on YouTube for the creator Dax79. And it will have, before the movie itself premieres, it's going to have a preview with an audience of film and game fans, along with the production's cast and crew. And the director, Ruben Abreu. Ruben Abreu helped write the film. Lee Thorne was the director of that, and he said that he hopes that the film will generate enough interest that he and Ruben will be able to get the original feature-length version of the film, Silent Hill Waking Hours, into production. So the synopsis of the film reads, Road of Guilt sees James Sunderland, who you might know as the protagonist of Silent Hill 2, Road of Guilt sees James Sunderland recovering an old set of therapy sessions between himself and Dr. Finch. James then heads to a ley line hotspot where a rift has potentially opened between our realm and the realm of Silent Hill in order to take care of some unfinished business. Which sounds really interesting. Sounds very different from the typical Silent Hill type of stuff from at least that era of Silent Hill. But if you want to see the trailer, it is on Dax79's current YouTube channel, so I would definitely check that out. Like I said, the movie itself comes out on September 24th, which happens to coincide with the 20th anniversary of Silent Hill 2. But moving on to our next piece of news, and this one is a bit of a weird one. So Legion M has been releasing a bunch of Mandy related merchandise, from t-shirts to plushies and just random stuff like that. But they have really outdone themselves with this one by releasing one of the weirdest things I have ever seen. It is a $2,000 hyper-realistic Red Miller mask, which is fucking terrifying because it is a complete and eerily lifelike replica of Nicolas Cage's face, circa Mandy, and his character in Mandy, Red Miller. So Legion M described this in their announcement. Now you can become Red Miller with this hyper-realistic mask. These masks are handcrafted by FX artist Rubber Larry, known for creating ultra-realistic stunt masks for the studio's stunt doubles. Each mask is individually handmade by Larry, starting with an uncanny sculpture of Nicolas Cage from countless photos and references from the film. When not in use, this mask doubles as a shockingly real display bust, and it comes with its very own custom solid resin sculpted base, also created by Rubber Larry. The iconic Mandy logo and carvings of the beast and chainsaw adorn the weathered heavy metal base. So again, this thing is creepy as hell. You can see the pictures of it up on our Instagram now. But like I said, these things are also very, very expensive. They're $2,000, and they only made 30 of these things. Each one of these comes with a certificate of authenticity signed by producer Daniel Noah of Spectrovision and by Rubber Larry himself. So if you have $2,000 to burn and you are a huge fan of Mandy, then I guess this is the collectible for you, which you can also wear. I wouldn't wear that. That's a little creepy. At least in my opinion, like, I'm just like, I don't want to just look in the mirror and be like, oh look, I'm Nicolas Cage. Ugh. Not anything against Nicolas Cage. I just think I would freak out a little bit. But moving on to some next news here. These next three pieces of news are all regarding Screen Factory bringing films to Blu-ray and 4K for the first time, or re-releasing some stuff in 4K and Blu-ray. So like Scream Factory went ham this week, announcing a bunch of stuff. First of these being that they're going to be bringing Dracula Dead and Loving It to Blu-ray for the first time in November. So in the this is the 1995 comedy horror film Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's going to be coming out on Blu-ray for the first time on November 23rd. The movie itself was directed by Mel Brooks, and the synopsis reads: Dapper Count Dracula relocates from his Transylvanian castle to Victorian London with his slavish assistant Renfield in search of new blood. He finds it in a pair of beautiful young women, Mina and her best friend Lucy. When Mina's straight-line fiancé Jonathan notices his future bride's odd behavior, he calls in his mentor, vampire hunter Van Helsing, to save the day. I've actually never seen this movie, so this would be a good opportunity for me to be able to see that for the first time. I'm a huge fan of Mel Brooks. I think his comedy is weird as hell, and it's also really, really funny. Particularly, I'm a huge fan of Spaceballs. So, I would love to see what he does with a horror-themed comedy. But moving on to some more Scream Factory stuff. So, on the newer side of the filmography here, Michael Dougherty's Krampus is going to be coming to 4K Ultra HD on November 16th. Now, it's going to be really cool. It is going to come with a director's cut. It's going to be called Krampus, the Naughty Cut. It comes to 4K Ultra HD, and it is going to be a brand new, never before seen version of the 2015 holiday film. Scream Factory explained, for the first time ever, Michael Dougherty's previously unseen Naughty Cut of the film will be seeing the light of day. This alternate version restores key dialogue and scenes that had to be trimmed from the original theatrical release to appease the MPAA. So this is really cool. I love this bit of news here. I know my co-host Vanya is probably dying when she hears this. She's a huge fan of Krampus, and the fact that there's going to be a longer version of Krampus that's going to be a director's cut, I'm sure that's going to fill her with a lot of joy. So yeah, that's actually really cool. I like that. I don't have a 4K player yet. I wish I did, because I really want to pick up some more films on 4K. I want to translate over to 4K, but we'll see. But moving on to the next piece of Scream Factory here. They also detailed some more info on the 4K Ultra HD releases of all the Halloween movies. What's even cooler, though, regarding Halloween 5, what's actually going to be, it's going to include the first 5 films, nothing else. But what's really going to be, what's going to be really cool is that Halloween... I'm sorry, I had to yawn there. But what's really cool is that Halloween 5 comes with lost footage that actually hasn't been found before. This is going to be the first time we get to see this footage. So that's going to be really, really exciting. If you're a fan of Halloween 5, I personally don't love that movie. It's kind of in my opinion. But if you liked it and you want to see some more footage, especially something that's never been seen before, then by all means, pick up a copy of Halloween 5. But moving on now to some more collectible news. So NECA previewed the upcoming 40th anniversary action figure of a young Bruce Campbell, circa the first Evil Dead. So we have seen plenty of figures from Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and Ash vs. Evil Dead, but we've never really gotten a figure from Ash's first appearance in the original Evil Dead. So that's going to be really cool. NECA actually teased us back in February, and they're going to be releasing an Ash Williams action figure that pays tribute to Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead. So we're going to finally, like I said, getting a 1981 version of Ash. And they gave us a little bit of more information, some images, especially regarding a brand new head sculpt, which is very, very cool, because it looks just like Bruce Campbell circa 1981. Again, this is also done to coincide with the 40th anniversary of the first Evil Dead. And some of the things that the figure includes are going to be an axe, a shotgun, a chainsaw, a lantern, and the infamous tape recorder. So that's going to be really cool. If you are interested in that, you can definitely pick that up already. But moving on to some more news here, some more horror video game movie news. Finally got some new images of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And in a recent interview with IGN, director of the film Johannes Roberts teased some of what we're going to be seeing in the film. before I get to that, they did also release some pictures, including the cast and one of the creatures that we're going to be seeing in the film. So the first picture that we got is of the STARS members, the STAR team, from the first game in, the Spencer Mansion. So we have our first look at Wesker, Barry, Jill, and Chris. And then the next picture we got is of the Raccoon City versions of these characters. So we're going to be looking at Leon and Claire. And we also got a picture of Lisa Trevor, who is one of the monsters that shows up in the remake of the first game. So that's going to be really cool. Now, I would say that the pictures have been a little bit divisive. Some people are really excited. Some people are a little apprehensive because they're a little too movie accurate or too game accurate, to the point where they kind of look a little goofy. I personally am really excited. I love the costumes. I love how accurate they are. Because Resident Evil sometimes doesn't really take itself too seriously. So I love the fact that they're kind of going with that a little bit. But like I said, we also did get an interview with director Johannes Roberts, and he did say that this is going to be a horror movie. It's going to stray away from the more action-heavy focus of the previous films with Mila Jovovich. So Roberts explained this movie really had nothing to do with the previous franchise. This was all about returning to the games and creating a movie that was much more of a horror movie than the sort of sci-fi action of the previous films. I was hugely influenced in particular by the remake of the second game, and I really wanted to capture the atmosphere-drenched tone that it had. It was so cinematic. Previous movies were very bright and shiny, whereas this movie was dark and grimy, entirely shot at night. It's constantly raining and the town is shrouded in mist. The movie has a very old-school retro feel to it. I was hugely influenced by movies like The Exorcist and Exorcist 3, Don't Look Now, and The Shining. You can really feel the texture in this movie. He continued, "Nothing in this town feels high-tech. It feels dilapidated. I wanted Raccoon City to feel a bit like the town in Deer Hunter, a ghost town forgotten by the rest of the world, and the whole structure of the film was definitely very influenced by Assault on Precinct 13. This is more, that's more regarding the overall atmosphere that they're trying to go for in the setting, which I think is a good direction that they're going with, because that is pretty much what Raccoon City looked like in the games. It is a city in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. It's not supposed to look all pretty. I love the fact that they're going to classic films such as Deer Hunter and Assault on Precinct 13 to really use that as an inspiration for the atmosphere of the film, because those movies are very close to what the atmosphere is supposed to feel like in a Resident Evil game. But moving on to what the director said regarding the monsters that we're going to be seeing in the film, he did also say, "We always returned to the game whenever we were looking at the characters and creatures and locations. It was our guiding star. Every character and creature is from the game, and as such, I wanted to be as faithful as possible. I wanted to create a truly immersive feeling for the fans, but that also became the trickiest part of adapting a piece of IP like this, because I didn't just want to put the game on screen. It had to be it had to be its own thing with living, breathing characters and creatures that felt true to the world. There was some cool shit in there. I mean, some of the creatures' stuff looks fucking incredible. It was a mixture of prosthetics, CGI, and creature performance. There's some wonderfully freaky stuff in there. You'll immediately recognize the creatures from the game, but hopefully we've gone beyond the game in terms of making these terrifying creations feel like they really could exist in real life." So I am really excited to see what creatures are going to be in this, because the creatures of Resident Evil, outside of the zombies, are very, very unique. They're very iconic at this point, because if you see them, you're like, oh, that's from Resident Evil. So I'm excited to see the creatures, because in that first picture that we saw of Lisa Trevor, it's very, very game accurate. It is essentially the game character brought to life, which is very good. It's very creepy. Some of the creatures that I'm hoping to see, I definitely want to see some lickers and some hunters, because they're very, very creepy creatures as well, especially the lickers. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very excited for this film. I didn't realize it already came out in November. So yeah, I'm excited to see what people think about this, because I can always talk about Resident Evil no matter what. So if you're excited, or if you're not excited, please, I want to talk to you about it. Let me know. But moving on to our next piece of news, we're going to be talking about a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is the new version that's coming out. So we now realize, or we did know a little bit more about this, that it is going to be produced by Fede Alvarez, who made the Evil Dead remake back in 2013, as well as the Don't Breathe film back in 2016. He did say this is going to be a direct sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw. It's going to ignore the rest of the films in the sequel, in the franchise. We also got promised Old Man Leatherface and the return of Sally, so that's going to be really cool. So when it comes to how we're going to be able to see the films, Hollywood Reporter reported that Netflix is actually going to be acquiring the global rights to the film, so it is going to be shown as a Netflix exclusive. So that's going to be exciting. I know a few people that I was talking to in one of our Discord groups, and I agree with this, weren't as excited just because it's possible that we may not get a physical release from this, which is kind of sad because I really want to get a physical version of this. I think that's going to be really, really cool. But yeah, that's really all we have on that so far. So we do know it's going to be distributed by Netflix. Now, I don't have any specifics as to when it's going to be coming out just yet, though. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Moving on to our next piece of news, we did get some new images of Last Night in Soho, the upcoming film by Edgar Wright. And honestly, some of those are on our Instagram. There's a whole lot more though. So we do have a couple of shots of Edgar Wright from behind the scenes directing the film. Some new looks at cast members Thomas and Mackenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Matt Smith. And it does seem to tease that Anya and Matt's characters are going to be having some sort of a romantic relationship. So we'll see what happens. I personally am really excited to see this. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright. The trailer for this was really exciting. I think this is going to be a really, really good movie. And I'm definitely going to be watching this in theaters when it comes out. So hope to see some of you there at one point. Moving on to some more home release films. For those of you that have already seen A24's The Green Knight, we are in luck because we are going to be getting a physical release of that in October. It's going to be coming out on 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, and digital on October 12th from Lionsgate. And the special features on it are going to include Boldest of Blood and Wildest of Heart, which is the making of, Practitioners of Magic, which is a visual effects featurette, a theatrical trailer, and Illuminating Technique, which is a behind-the-scenes look at the title design of the film. So that's going to be very exciting. I am the worst. I actually haven't seen Green Knight yet because I'm the worst again. So I'll definitely try to watch that, and based on that, I'll make a decision as to whether or not to pick up a physical version of it. But I've heard a ton, and I mean a ton of good things about this movie. So we'll see what happens. But we do also have an announcement regarding the upcoming brand new Paranormal Activity movie that's going to be coming out. It is going to be coming out to Paramount Plus this Halloween season. So we now know that it's going to be coming straight to Paramount Plus. We don't have a date as of now, but Deadline did report that it's going to be headed this Halloween season. And not only that, we are also getting a brand new documentary coming to Paramount Plus. So it's going to be a documentary on the making of Paranormal Activity. Now, what I don't know for sure is if it's going to be on the first Paranormal Activity or if it's going to go through the entire franchise. Well, like I said, that's really all I have on that. We don't have a specific date as to when this will release just yet. So we'll see what happens there. But moving on now to some fun little Spirit Halloween news. We got the official pictures of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space collection. And there's so much more that's coming out. Like, holy shit, a whole ton of merchandise. So some of these stuff that's going to get released for Killer Clowns are going to be some masks, some costumes, some t-shirts, coffee mugs, signs, a fleece blanket. Shorty and Spikey are going to be getting their own half masks, while Shorty has also been turned onto a full-on costume with mask, along with the clown's character Jumbo. And probably the coolest one too is a 5-foot tall Shorty animatronic. So that's going to be really fun. That's going to be exciting. So if you're a fan of the clowns, if you have some extra money to burn as well, because I'm sure you're going to be spending a lot of money at Spirit, by all means, get some new Killer Clowns merchandise. So, yeah. Moving on to our next piece of news here. A couple weeks ago, or last week, I announced that Disney Plus is going to be doing a Muppet Haunted Mansion special. Now we got a little bit more news regarding who is going to be in it. So we got an announcement that Darren Criss from Glee revealed that he's going to be playing the caretaker in the Muppets Haunted Mansion special. So that's going to be really cool. He did post a picture on, I think, either his Instagram or his Twitter with the costume, and he looks pretty good. So it looks like there might be taking a little bit more of a musical route with this, because I know Darren Criss is both dancer and singer. So, outside of being an actor as well. So, yeah, this looks pretty cool. I'm excited to see this. I like Halloween specials. I like the Muppets. I'm excited to see what they do with it. Plus, it's Haunted Mansion, so. So moving on now to some cartoon news this time. So, some time ago, HBO Max announced that they're going to be getting an animated Gremlins series called Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai. We did also learn that it's going to be airing on Cartoon Network. So, it is a half-hour animated prequel series from WB Animation and Amblin TV that's actually set in the 1920 Shanghai. And it tells the story of how 10-year-old Sam Wing met the young Mogwai called Gizmo. So we did learn from the Hollywood Reporter that it will be given a cross-platform run, so it's going to be also airing on Cartoon Network. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because that's going to be pretty cool. The only thing I've seen so far is a poster for it, and the animation style looks interesting. It looks different. So I have some good expectations for it. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good. But moving on now to some more TV news, I'm sorry. Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions inked a 2-year TV deal with Universal. So they entered a new multi-year television overall deal with Universal, coming off of a previous TV pact with Amazon. So it looks like they shifted away from Amazon. They're going to be working with NBC Universal. Deadline reported that the new deal will cover Peele and Monkey Paw's television development and production across Universal Studio Group divisions, Universal Television, and UCP. So that's very exciting news. I'm interested to see what sort of television programming the Jordan Peele and his production company are going to come up with. And not only that, it's going to have a good distribution partner with Universal. So, well, I'm excited for that. We'll see what we can do there. But we also did get a new poster for the upcoming series, for the upcoming Netflix series Midnight Mass, which is going to be which was directed or created by Mike Flanagan, who did create Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor as well. So he's going to reunite with Netflix for Midnight Mass, and it is coming out on September 24th, 2021. And then we did get a brand new poster, which looks really good. It looks like a Drew Struzan poster from the 80s with hand-drawn pictures and everything like that. So that looks really cool. We also did get news regarding a trailer for Midnight Mass, which is announced that it might be premiering this upcoming week, hopefully on Thursday, on September 9th. So yeah, hopefully we do get that trailer. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this. And like I said, if you want to check out that poster, you're more than welcome to do so. I personally really like the poster. I love hand-drawn, like hand-painted looks. Like I said, like Drew Struzan with his iconic covers or posters. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. Hopefully we get that trailer on Thursday and we can see what the show's going to be all about. But moving on now to some Rob Zombie news. So Dead Slut Coffee just made available an officially licensed Rob Zombie coffee called Hellbilly Brew. So the brand new coffee was just unleashed by Dead Slut. It's called Hellbilly Brew. It is now available for pre-order, and this time it was licensed with Rob Zombie. Dead Sled, the company that created the coffee or partnered with Rob Zombie, stated Rob Zombie's Hellbilly Brew is from the Bugisu sub-region of Uganda and is Dead Sled Coffee's first 100% USADA certified organic coffee. It was grown at an elevation of 1,600 meters and roasted to a smooth and horrifically delightful medium dark roast. On the roasting scale, it falls into the high roast category. They're going to be available for $22 over on the Dead Sled website. Hopefully the bags are a little bit bigger because $22 is a little bit much for a coffee. But if you make it last, then it's a $22 very well spent. Especially if you're a Rob Zombie fan like myself. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so it doesn't really, funny enough, to make a pun, it isn't really my cup of tea. But I'm funny. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. So we do also, moving on to our next piece of news, we do also have something new from Netflix. They partnered with the incredible Guillermo del Toro to make an anthology series called Cabinet of Curiosities. And we did also get a look at who some of the directors are going to be for some of the episodes. So we're going to be getting Panos Cosmatos, who directed Mandy, Jennifer Kent, who directed Babadook, Vincenzo Natali, who directed Splice, and David Pryor, who directed The Empty Man. So, Deadline reported that production has begun in Toronto on creator, EP, and co-showrunner Del Toro's collection of live-action stories that Netflix says is meant to challenge our traditional notions of horror. From macabre to magical, gothic to grotesque, or classically creepy, the 8 sinister tales, including 2 original works by Del Toro, will be brought to life by a team of writers and directors personally chosen by the Shape of Water filmmaker. That is really cool. I'm a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro. I love a lot, like almost all of his work. I haven't seen all of it just yet. And the fact that not only is he partnering with Netflix to make an anthology series, and he's going to be writing 2 of the episodes, he's partnering with some amazing horror directors. So that gives me really, really high hopes, really high expectations. We don't have any other details right now regarding any type of release date. But as soon as I know something, I'm sure you guys will know something. So keep your eyes and ears open. Because I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to see that. But moving on to the next piece of news that we have here, Alfred Woodard heads to Salem Slot for a new movie adaptation of the Stephen King novel. So I announced this, I think, last week, where James Wan is going to be producing a new take on Salem Slot for New Line Cinema. And Gary Doberman, who directed It, I think the original It, The Nun, and Annabelle Comes Home, is attached to write the script. He's also going to be directing it. So we got some new casting news from Deadline, and they reported that Oscar nominee Alfred Woodard, who was in Annabelle and Clemency, is going to be headed to the film. And it looks like she will be playing Dr. Cody. And Deadline noted that Cody assists Ben Mears, Susan Norton, and Matt Burke in fighting the spread of vampires. So that's going to be pretty cool. I've seen a few of Alfred Woodard's films. She's a really good actress. So this could be really interesting. I read Salem Slot years and years ago when I was in high school. I barely remember it. I might have to reread it just before this movie so I can actually remember stuff. But yeah, that's pretty exciting news. But moving on to some more collectible news. A couple weeks ago, I talked about Numbskull Designs making Jaws-themed rubber duckies. And we got some new announcements for some new ones that are going to be coming out for Halloween. So the company announced, following the success of Tubbs' Bloodbath range last Halloween, Numbskull is creepily delighted to announce that the original 5 horror characters will be back, namely the Lost Boys, Michael and David, Reagan, Beetlejuice and Pennywise, along with some brand new horror icons. So the new lineup for this year are going to be Stripe from Gremlins and Chucky, along with a quartet of monster duckies, based specifically on the Hammer horror takes on Dracula, Frankenstein's creature, the Mummy, and the Werewolf. And each one of those is going to be $15.99. They are already available, so you can definitely get your hands on that, which are very cool. I love these little duckies. They're adorable. They're very cute. The Jaws ones were really funny, and the Universal Monsters ones here look really, really cute as well. But moving on, we are almost done here. Prisoners of Ghostland, which me and Kyle from the Trick or Treaters podcast have been hyping this movie up like crazy. Like, we're extremely excited for this movie to come out. The movie itself comes out on VOD and digital and on select theaters on September 17th. And what's going to be really cool, we did learn from Amazon that Image Entertainment is also going to be releasing the film on DVD and Blu-ray on November 16th. So I'm excited for that. Nicolas Cage is having the craziest and the best renaissance of his career right now. So the fact that we're going to be getting a physical copy of or physical release of this film is very exciting, because this movie isn't just a Nicolas Cage movie, it's also a Bill Moseley movie. Like, what a combination. So I'm excited for that. I know some people are going to be excited for that. But yeah, moving on to our last piece of news here. This one's more of a Blu-ray news as well. So this is a movie I didn't really know anything about. It's a 1982 film called Trick or Treats. And it's going to be coming back to Blu-ray. This is a Blu-ray that got originally released back in 2015. It's going to be repressed to Blu-ray again for Halloween season via Code Red and Kino Lorber. And it will be released on October 5th. And the movie follows, or the movie synopsis reads, 5 years after his wife Joan had him wrongfully and deliberately committed to a mental institution so she could live with her boyfriend, Malcolm escapes on Halloween night and arrives back at his old house to murder her. Except Joan is not home. She's out with her boyfriend while babysitter Linda is looking after Malcolm's 10-year-old son Christopher, an equally psychotic and demented practical joker, until, under cover of darkness, Malcolm shows up and begins a real terror game of attrition with Linda. Holy shit, this sounds really cool. Just by reading this, it sounds really cool. So, like I said, I don't really know anything about this movie at all. Never even heard of this. But like I said, it's going to be coming out to Blu-ray on October 5th, 2021. So if you've seen the movie or you're interested in that type of 80s horror, I would probably recommend picking that up just to get something new in your collection. But yeah, that's really all the horror news that I have this week. There wasn't a whole lot of big new announcements. Mostly just some updates on things that have already been announced. So yeah, I hope you guys are all caught up now. And, you're ready for the week ahead. So, before we leave the episode, I'm going to do some of our basic housekeeping. So, outside of me doing these weekly horror news updates, we do have our weekly podcast on Mondays called Sounds from the Grave Podcast, if you didn't know that already, where we talk all things horror and HHN, just horror-related stuff. Right now, we do have a new episode coming out tomorrow where Vanya and I deep dive into Texas Chainsaw Massacre, my all-time favorite horror movie, and we go into some deep stuff in there. I go a little too deep into the subtext of Texas Chainsaw, so if you want to check that out, I definitely recommend you do so. We also have 2 new episodes coming out later on during the month where we talk about Bride of Frankenstein as well as Beetlejuice. As part of our HHN IP month, where we talk about some of the IPs that are going to be at this year's Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando. We don't know what the last episode of this month is going to be yet. We're still debating on whether we're going to do Crypt TV, Hill House, or if we're just going to do like our thoughts on Horror Nights so far. So we'll keep you guys updated as soon as something happens there. But outside of that, you can find my co-host Vanya. She is under YouTube and Twitter at HHN Cultus. Definitely give her a follow if you're into Horror Nights, makeup, goth culture. She does all that kind of stuff. And she actually just recently posted a vlog on her YouTube where she talks about or shows off some of the stuff that we've seen at HHN regarding the scare zones. So definitely check that out too if you're not able to travel to it this year and want to see some stuff. Then for myself, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter on Instagram at Yussef1220 and on Twitter at itbeyusef. And then for our podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and YouTube. And for our podcast, you can also listen to that on YouTube. And you can also hear us on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you would listen to a podcast. But really, that's all I have for now. Also, almost forgot, don't forget about our email, soundsfromthegravepodcast@gmail.com. So you can always send us an email on there, as well as our new letterbox that we just created. It is going to be, I'm going to post a link to that tomorrow when we drop the Texas Chainsaw episode, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I haven't made any reviews on it yet, except for Texas Chainsaw, just because I need to backtrack and probably rewatch some of the things that we've seen already that we've talked about on the show or on the podcast. But yeah, that's really all I have for now. I hope you guys have a good day or good night whenever you're listening to this, and that you stay spooky. Bye, everybody.